Welcome to the Society.
I'm Counterspell.
And I'm Reverberate. Today,
No, we're not doing anything you want. You issued a challenge, sir.
That's right, I did.
And I'm here to pay up. Check it out. I've been training.
Is that a VHS?
Weeks.
Is it a VHS?
Yeah. Why? How else am I going to show you the tape?
I was wondering where the trophy went.
Oh, I sent that out to get cleaned.
Alright, well, let's see this.
Alright.
Out of all of the media that exists in the world, why did you go with VHS?
Well, I made a film. Film goes on VHS.
We make films all the time. We're filming right now.
No, these are videos. This is digital. I made a film. VHS is for film. It's an art thing. You wouldn't understand.
Alright, fine. Well, today, we're doing Gideon Challenge Accepted.
Alright, so I was challenged to make a Gideon deck. A Gideon soldier deck, and that's what I decided to do. This takes all of my personal favorite Gideons. I left one out and slapped them into this deck, and this is how we're going to start. Nice and simple. We have 14 basic planes. Following the basic lands, I decided to run 4 prismatic vistas. It's a fetch for a basic land, and fetches make most decks better, so why not, right? Following the vistas, I decided to put Naganjo Castle. It's a legendary land that also produces planes, but has the added ability to be able to prevent 2 damage that would be dealt to any of my legendary creatures. I don't run a lot of them in here, but I do have a few, so figured, why not? And last but not least, we have Caracas. Legendary land, taps for planes, also has the added ability to return a target legendary creature to its owner's hand. So if you're about to destroy one of my legendaries, it comes back. If you put out a legendary I don't like, I send it back. Nice and simple. Now we get to the instant spells in this deck. If you're going to do a soldier deck, you have to run Raise the Alarm. It's simple. 2-drop, you get 2 1/1 white soldier creatures. Couldn't ask for anything more. As for removal, Swords to Plowshares. Remove target creature from the game, that creature's controller gains life. Now, if you saw our Gideon Spellbook review, you'll recognize these next 2 cards. Of course we had to put Path to Exile in here, and we used the art directly from those spellbooks. Just like Swords to Plowshares, nice and simple. You exile a creature, and that creature's controller gets to look for a basic land and put it into the battlefield. Now for the enchantments in this deck, I decided to tap into the lore of Gideon and pick enchantments that I felt really supported that. And one of the big things with Gideon is that he has an aura of indestructibility around him. You can see that from a lot of his abilities on his Planeswalker cards. So I thought, aura of indestructibility? Let's go with Spirit Mantle. It's cheap, it's effective. It gives them +1/+1 and protection from all creatures. Now, after Gideon wins the battle, he demands blind obedience come from the army he defeated. And that's why I went with blind obedience. It's very simple. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Plus, you have a nice little extra ability to gain back some of the life you might have lost. Now, the army that Gideon commands worships him, and that's why I added worship to this deck. Not to mention, it's just a great addition. For 4 mana, you get an enchantment that says you can't go below 1 life if you have creatures on the battlefield. And if this deck does anything, it produces creatures. And speaking of creatures, let's go into them. I start with 4 Precinct Captains. It's a cheap creature. You get a 2/2 for 2 with first strike. And whenever it deals damage to the opponent, you get to produce 1 white soldier token. Now, if you remember we had Spirit Mantle before, you put one of those on this, and you're just getting free creatures every turn. Following Precinct Captain, we go to 3 Preeminent Captains. A 2/2 for 3, also having first strike. This thing has a great ability, though. Whenever it attacks, you can choose any soldier in your hand and put it directly into the battlefield tapped and attacking. So if you haven't noticed yet, first strike is kind of a theme in this deck. I want to have every creature have first strike. And if they don't, that's where Field Marshal comes in. It's a 2/2 Lord for 3 that gives all other soldiers +1/+1 in first strike. As I said before, this deck produces a lot of creatures, so it makes a simple, uncommon Crusader of Odric incredibly powerful. For 3 mana, you get a creature whose power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. For the most part, this deck could be considered a white weenie deck, and one of the biggest problems a white weenie deck has is dealing with large creatures. So that's why I brought in the Intrepid Hero. It's got a small body of a 1/1, but you can tap it and destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, and that is huge. If you can't exile it because you don't have a path or a sword, destroy it with Intrepid Hero. Next we have his Loyal Sentry. It's a really cheap card. It's a 1/1 for 1. Whenever he blocks a creature, you destroy him and the creature he blocked. It's not great. It's not bad. Truth be told, I just liked the card, so I figured I'd throw one in there. Being able to draw cards never hurts a deck, and so I went with Mentor of the Meek. I only have 1 of it, but whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 mana and draw a card. Now, what army and what battle doesn't want to have a hero? So I entered Hero of Bladehold. It's kind of expensive having a 4 mana cost, but it does give you a 3/4 body, and it does give you Battle Cry, which makes combat even better. Plus, whenever it attacks, you get to put 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens into the battlefield tapped and attacking. So here you have it. Gideon's basic foot soldiers. These guys will get the job done. But from here, where do we go? Well, his trusted lieutenants. His first lieutenant leads the artillery division. We have the Catapult Master. He's a 5-drop 3/3, but you tap 5 untapped soldiers you control and remove any creature from the game. What's great about Catapult Master is that you don't have to wait for Summoning Sickness to clear. You can tap a creature to his ability because it's not breaking the Summoning Sickness rule. Next, we have the captain of his ground forces, the Captain of the Watch. Now, this is by far the most expensive card in this deck to cast, but it does net you a 3/3 body with Vigilance. All other soldier creatures get +1/+1 and also have Vigilance. Plus, when it enters the battlefield, you get to put 3 more 1/1 white soldier creature tokens into the battle. Remember what I said, this deck produces a lot of creatures. Every army needs a tactician, and that's why we bring in Odric. For 4 mana, you get a 3/4 body with first strike, who also has a weird and unique ability to allow you to pick how your opponents block, providing you attack with 3 more creatures. Now, Gideon's smart, and he has great tactics and he has great support, but it doesn't hurt to have an advisor, and that's why we bring in Misako the Humorless. Misako's a weird card. I kind of love this card. For 3 mana, you get a 2/1, but its real strength is the ability that you can play it at any time, and tap creatures you control can block as though they weren't untapped. So go ahead, swing away, deal as much damage as you can, and if you don't have Vigilance, it doesn't matter. You flash her into the battlefield, you can still block. Now we get to where it all started. Kithion, the hero of Akros. For 1 mana, you get a 2/1. But what's important here is this man grows up, and he becomes a powerful leader. He starts to learn how to become indestructible. For 3 mana, you can make him indestructible until end of turn. But when he rallies his troops and attacks with 3 or more people, the spark inside him ignites. And that's where the real power comes in. That spark creates Gideon the Battleforged, the planeswalker that supports this deck and that leads this army. His first ability, +2, he taunts the opposing army, making them attack him. After that, we have a +1. Until the end of your next turn, target creature gains indestructible. Untap that creature. And then his final ability, until end of turn, Gideon the Battleforged becomes a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible. That's still Planeswalker, but you get to prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. Now we get to Gideon Jarrah, the card that caused this challenge to happen. For 5 mana, you get a 6 loyalty Planeswalker, whose first ability is +2. Again, taunt the opponent. Make them attack him. Following that, we have a -2, where you get to destroy target tapped creature. And as per usual, we have his 0 cost ability, which, until end of turn, turns him to a 6/6 human soldier creature that's still a Planeswalker, and you get to prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. Gideon, Champion of Justice. This one's an interesting one. For 4 mana, you get a Planeswalker with 4 loyalty, who has a really unique +1 ability to just put a loyalty counter onto him for each creature your opponent controls. Following that, we have a 0 cost ability, as per usual, where until end of turn, he becomes an indestructible human creature. The difference here, though, is his power and toughness is equal to the number of loyalty counters that would be on him. Then we have his -15. Nice and simple. Exile all other permanents. That's a lot of power. Gideon of the Trials. A 3-drop Planeswalker that has 3 loyalty when it enters the battlefield. +1, until your next turn, prevent all damage target permanent would deal. 0, until end of turn, he becomes a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible, that's also still Planeswalker, and as per usual, prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. Then his second 0 ability, you get an emblem with, as long as you control a Gideon Planeswalker, you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Now you pair that with Worship, and it's very hard to kill you. Now the final Planeswalker and final card in this deck, Gideon Blackblade. It's a 3-drop Planeswalker that comes in with 4 loyalty counters. What's different with this guy is he has a standard ability. As long as it's your turn, he's just a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible, but he's also still a Planeswalker. And again, as per usual, prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. On top of that, he has a +1 that says up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn. So you have some flexibility there. And then his -6, exile target non-land permanent.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Did he nail the deck? Did he succeed in the challenge I gave him to build a Gideon-themed soldier deck? What do you think? Why don't you tell me in the comments below? Did he pass or fail?